Okay, welcome to the third one I'm recording on May 31st. Will probably be posted in early June. Movie vlogs. Thank you again for watching. Gotten past the U's now. I'm into the V's. We're in the home stretch. And I'm going to hit the W's in this particular vlog, so here we go. Okay, the only other V I have in my binder of movies down here is Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise. Came out in 2001. Directed by a director I've talked about quite a few times already. The same director who did Jerry Maguire and Say Anything, and that would be Cameron Crowe. Cameron Crowe, just so you know, was a huge he is a huge music fan, and he worked for Rolling Stone magazine at a very young age. And there's single frames in Vanilla Sky that replicate famous album covers. There's a scene where Tom Cruise is walking down this kind of like narrow street with his girlfriend, and if you freeze frame it, it's basically a Bob Dylan album cover, like reproduced. There's things like that in the movie that are very interesting to me. The concept of the movie I thought was very interesting, but I had seen the original Spanish film it's based on first. And like many foreign films that get adapted to an American audience, oh wow, I could just go down a huge list, but they've softened the edges of the Spanish film, changed the ending slightly, and I think the Spanish film is superior in some ways. I want to say the Spanish film is called Open Your Eyes, and how you say that in Spanish, I wouldn't want to butcher the Spanish, but I'll put a link in the side box to the IMDb page of the original Spanish film. So check that out if you want to see a really good film. And Vanilla Sky got a little trippy, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I bought it on DVD because I am a huge Cameron Crowe fan, and I wanted to watch it, you know, like a second and a third time, because it felt like a film that you would get more out of with repeat viewings. And I will admit that I haven't taken it out of the binder in the 5 years that I've lived here in Japan, but I will watch it again soon. Okay, next we're moving into the W's. How many of you can guess this movie just from the cover art? That's kind of an obscure reference, but it's Pink Floyd's The Wall, which I put under the W's, not the P's. I had a girlfriend for many years who was a really huge Pink Floyd fan, and got me into Pink Floyd way beyond the casual kind of fan that I was. I mean, I had The Wall, and I probably had Dark Side of the Moon. Those were probably the only two albums I had, and she really introduced me to a lot of their music. And it made me kind of want to go back and re-see this kind of strange movie that I'd seen in the early 80s on videotape at a friend's house called The Wall, which is basically kind of like a long-form music video. There is a plot, but it's very much based around the concept of this concept album by Pink Floyd, who are a British rock band from the 70s and 80s, if you've never heard of them. And The Wall basically tells, you know, the story of a young boy whose father goes off to war, and he grows up, and this kind of 1984 Orwellian fascist society takes over, and you know, what happens to this character, played, interestingly enough, by an a musician named Bob Geldof, who some of you might be familiar with through the concerts that he's promoted called Live Aid, and then he did other ones more recently. But I knew him because I was a huge fan of a rock group from Ireland called the Boomtown Rats. Because, you know, my parents are from England, I would get tapes sent to me from relatives of like the Top of the Pops music from the late 70s and early 80s in England, and probably my absolute favorite band from all of that time is the Boomtown Rats, and Bob Geldof is the lead singer and songwriter. Anyway, he's the lead actor in this movie, and he does an okay job. Sometimes, you know, he doesn't really do the singing, and he doesn't have much dialogue because much of the film is kind of pantomimed to the Pink Floyd music. But there's animation in the film which I think is really startling and interesting, done by the graphic designer who did the album cover. And if you're into Pink Floyd and you haven't seen it, you should. I'm sure if you're into Pink Floyd, you have seen it. But if you're just into, you want kind of a trippy movie one night, it's an interesting experience, and I recommend it. Okay, the next W I'll talk about is When Harry Met Sally. We couldn't be more different than Pink Floyd's The Wall. What you would think would be mostly a standard boy meets girl story, but really much more than that. One of the best scripts, I think, in the romantic comedy genre probably in the last 20 years. The movie came out in 1989, so God, that is 20 years ago now, isn't it? Billy Crystal, at the height of his skills as an actor at that point, with City Slickers and this movie and a few others. Meg Ryan, when she was, of course, very, very on fire as an actress, getting a lot of big roles. And putting them both together. Rob Reiner directed it. As you guys know, I really like his work. Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Not All the President's Men, You Can't Handle the Truth. Oh, my Brian. A Few Good Men, thank you. With Tom Cruise, the movie that introduced Aaron Sorkin to the world, who ended up going on to write The West Wing, one of the best TV shows of all time. Anyway, When Harry Met Sally, great boy meets girl story. I mean, let's face it, it's a romantic comedy, and Billy Crystal is Harry. He meets this girl named Sally, played by Meg Ryan, and they kind of meet, and nothing happens, and then they meet again years later, and nothing happens, and then they slowly realize that they're falling in love, but of course they're best friends. And Billy Crystal has said in the movies, you can't be friends with a girl if you're a man, because secretly you want to have sex with her. It doesn't matter who she is. And it's just very, very touching. Great soundtrack by Harry Connick Jr., a lot of classic songs. I believe Nora Ephron had something to do with the film. Maybe she wrote it. I can't even remember now. But yeah, if you're into romantic comedies, you know, they've tried to repeat the formula a bunch of times, and they've never gotten it quite as right as When Harry Met Sally. Okay, I should have time for one more, so I'll keep going in the W's. The next movie is Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Love this movie. Being a big Disney fan, more so in the past than I am necessarily now, although I'm a huge Pixar fan now. And just being a big Warner Brothers animation, Bugs Bunny, you know, all those early cartoons, you know, Chuck Jones, Friz Freleng, you know, all the Mel Blanc characters. I loved Roger Rabbit. You know, it was groundbreaking at the time. Bob Zemeckis did it, who of course did Forrest Gump and the Back to the Future films. And really well cast. The voice actor that does Roger Rabbit, I think, is great. And just a great blend. And it's just such a treat if you're an animation fan to see all the little cameos and all the people, and Betty Boop and Daffy and Donald playing the piano together. And it's just one of those marvels of, like, technology. Like, we had gotten to the point where we could do a movie like this and have animated characters interact in a realistic way with real live actors. And it's, you know, it's a really funny film. It's about a studio, and, you know, what if cartoons were real people, and, you know, when they make the cartoons they're actually actors, and you know, it's a fanciful idea, and it's well executed. And the DVD is really cool if you're into the movie. There's great extras on it, all about how they made the film, etc. Christopher Lloyd, great, as the villain in it. Bob Hoskins is the main actor. So, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, When Harry Met Sally, Vanilla Sky, and Pink Floyd's The Wall. All recommended. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. More soon.